I've spoken with a source, a law enforcement source here in the D.C. area, who is at the scene right now, who painted a really grim picture of what they're looking at, saying that at least part of the plane is underwater. We don't know exactly how much of it. They have divers on the way to the scene. They are really frantically searching for survivors at the moment. But just driving around, we drove the entire area around the Potomac, essentially, the Maryland side, the Virginia side, and you could see not just dozens and dozens of law enforcement vehicles, but also even officers on one of the bridges in the area shining flashlights into the water, just looking for any signs of anyone who might have come off the aircraft, presumably. That's what they were looking for.
All right, we have an incredibly tragic story developing out of Washington, D.C. after a commercial aircraft carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members collided mid-air with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter right next to Reagan National Airport. And listen, this is still a developing story, and authorities are still trying to figure out how this happened, how many casualties there are. I'm not going to speculate on anything, but I do want to talk about the facts, what we know, and I also want to talk about some of the critical implications and the public discourse surrounding this, because people are talking a lot about Trump, a lot about his new administration, and I think it would be irresponsible to not break down what has happened over the past 7 days, and specifically tonight. So before we jump in, let's just start off with the CNN breaking news updates. Fatalities confirmed in mid-air plane helicopter collision, source says. A law enforcement source says there are confirmed fatalities and that rescuers have not yet pulled any survivors out of the water. And this one is incredibly sad. Hamad Raza said his wife was on the plane that collided with a Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River. Quote, "I'm just praying that somebody is pulling her out of the river right now as we speak," Raza told CNN affiliate WUSA. Raza said he received a text message from his wife shortly before the plane was supposed to land. Quote, "She texted me that they were landing in 20 minutes, he said, but his text back to her did not get delivered. That was when he realized something could be wrong. And also, the Black Hawk that collided with the plane was on a training flight, says an official." And this is all incredibly tragic and heartbreaking. I've been on 3 or 4 flights to DC over the past month, and I just keep thinking of the last moments. People sitting there watching movies on their phone, or likely texting their loved ones like we just read about, and just like that, a tragedy happens. It's insane how quickly it can occur. But at this moment, I just want to run down some of the facts, but I also want to talk about the broader conversation this is already sparking, because I don't want to make this political. It is a tragedy. We don't want to make it political, but ignoring the bigger picture, I think would be irresponsible. Anytime there's an incident like this, the immediate questions center around national security, the government's response, our country's preparedness for a crisis, and let's be honest, those are areas where the Trump movement has systematically worked to weaken our institutions. Just read this. About 14 hours ago, somebody tweeted out, "An FAA employee I know confirms agency already lacks sufficient air traffic controllers. The so-called buyouts that have been happening within the government and other attacks on federal employees won't help. Remember that fact when the flight delays and crashes commence and Trumpers start falsely blaming DEI or Biden." Let me just reiterate, this was sent out 14 hours ago, way before this crash even happened, and then somebody built on top of that. Abby said, "I was literally talking to the union representing federal air traffic controllers earlier today about how there's already a major shortage of air traffic controllers, and the resignation offers they all just got from OPM could seriously endanger public safety." Now again, the story is still developing. Authorities are still trying to do investigations. We don't know exactly what happened, but what we can say confidently is that many families are worried right now. Right in this moment, many families are scared, likely having one of the worst nights of their life. So think about the forward-looking implications. When Trump guts the FAA, he kneecaps the NTSB, he wages a war on the deep state, which in reality are just career experts who keep critical infrastructure running. When he does this repeatedly, it's worth talking about the implications when something like this happens, even if they weren't directly connected. We don't know yet. We don't know. It is worth talking about the families that will be worried over the next 4 years as these institutions begin to crumble. Look at this. January 22nd, Trump guts key aviation safety committee, fires heads of TSA and the Coast Guard. The committee will technically continue to exist, but it won't have any members to carry out the work of examining safety issues at airlines and airports. Somebody else said, on his second day in office, Donald Trump, 1, fired the head of the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, fired the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, and froze hiring of air traffic controllers. Even if today's crash can't be linked to any of Trump's actions about a week ago, it is absolutely worth talking about the implications, the forward-looking implications of events like this happening, and how families across the country will continue to be worried about their family members if Trump continues to deregulate air traffic control. What an odd thing to target the deep state for, but Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care about the implications of his actions, and we can look at his government freeze that happened 2 days ago. It locked a bunch of people out of their Medicaid portals. There were a bunch of consequences that nobody could have really foreseen because of how vaguely written the memo was. So when Trump comes in and metaphorically takes an axe to all of our institutions, then we will see things like this happen. Again, even if tonight's was not directly linked. We can't say one way or the other. It's too early to jump to any sort of conclusions. So I'm being very careful not to speculate, but I just want to say ignoring the bigger picture here would be borderline irresponsible. Like I said earlier, when there's an incident like this, it is the time where you start to talk about the government response. It is the exact time where you talk about America's preparedness for a crisis. And I don't think there's anything wrong with laying out all of the facts. Now, I don't think we should speculate within an hour and a half of this happening. We don't know exactly what happened. That's why we will stick to the facts. The facts are, on the second day in office, Donald Trump fired the head of the TSA, fired the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, froze the hiring of air traffic controllers, and these were just the beginning of a systematic dismantling of federal oversight in transportation and aviation, which results in a government that is increasingly unable to ensure the safety of the skies. And again, I'm talking about over the next few months. If we start to see more and more stuff like this due to Donald Trump's dismantling of these institutions, even if you can't draw the line between this one, we need to be talking about it. We need to be hammering home the implications. And right here on CNN, we just learned the air traffic audio was captured moments before, during, and after the collision. The audio captured audible gasps, including a loud "oh" in the background, apparently from the tower at the moment of the crash. The tower then alerted another pilot of what has taken place. Quote, "I don't know if you caught earlier what happened," said the tower, "but there was a collision on the approach end of 3-3. We are going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future. If you want to go back to the gate, highly suggest you guys coordinate with the company. Let me know what you want to do." The audio also revealed that another pilot had seen the incident and confirmed with an air traffic controller. Another pilot could be heard saying, quote, "Yeah, we were on short final and we saw flares from the opposite side of the runway." An approach controller later said, "Apparently both aircraft involved are in the river. A search and rescue will be ongoing. It's incredibly tragic, and I want to leave it at that." Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, hug your loved ones, chill out for the next week. It's been a crazy start to the year, and yeah, peace out.